The New York Mets have now lost 5 games in a row, and the starting rotation continues to struggle.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Ryan Finkelstein. I've been covering the New York Mets on this show since the 2019 season. It's the only podcast that covers the Mets 7 days a week throughout the regular season. If you want to find some of my written work, you do so over at justbaseball.com, where I work as the editor-in-chief. This episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the USA by visiting 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. Now, the New York Mets got blown out again on Wednesday, losing by a score of 11-3. The Phillies have wrapped up this division. We already knew that to be the case, but they have completely avenged that series sweep at Citi Field. They're on top. They're feeling great. They're beating up on the Mets, and it's frustrating to watch. And I'm not going to spend a whole segment on this show rehashing a game that the Mets were really never in. And we'll talk a little bit about Clay Holmes in the next segment, because I think despite another bad start where he only goes 4+ and just continues to not give the Mets length as per usual when it comes to any of these veterans in the rotation, because the kids are the only guys that can go deep right now. I want to talk about where we're at with this season for the Mets and the narrative that is around this team right now. And maybe it's just because I'm getting these text messages from our Locked On Mets insiders, or I'm seeing the comments on YouTube, or I'm seeing some tweets on social media. But it seems like right now the sentiment amongst Mets fans is David Stearns blew it by the way he built this pitching staff. It's crumbling. It's all Stearns' fault. I'm getting a lot of that. And not to call out Michael Barron, who is the co-creator and executive editor of Just Mets. I'll be honest, I've known of Michael from Twitter interactions over the years. Never had a bad one necessarily, for sure. And I can't speak to his work. I'm sure he does good work. I can't say I've ever read it or anything like that, but not to just call him out. But he sent out this tweet that I felt was just a fan's frustration coming out that is really not based in any reality. And so I wanted to address it and give you my take on how the Mets built this pitching staff and why pointing the finger at David Stearns right now, it's misplaced frustration. So here's the tweet from Michael Barron. He says, maybe the next time David Stearns builds a pitching staff, he will do so with fewer ifs, maybes, projects, reclamations, and rolls of the dice. Well worded, got a lot of engagement. But I asked Michael, what did he want David Stearns to do? Because a lot of fans were clamoring for Stearns to sign Corbin Burnes. I did a few the Mets should sign Corbin Burnes podcasts. When I saw the contract that he signed with the Diamondbacks, 6 years, $210 million, and I thought, man, only a 6-year deal for Burnes. I was out there saying that would have looked nice to have a true ace leading this rotation in 2025. Well, guess what? Corbin Burnes went down with Tommy John. So now that 6-year contract, you're only going to get 4 years of it. The back 4 years when he's in the middle of his 30s. And who knows what even the third year is going to look like. He didn't pitch for the second half of 2025, and he's probably not going to pitch in 2026. A bullet dodged. You look at Max Fried, 8 years, $218 million. Now, Fried has had a good year for the Yankees. Do not get me wrong. But it's his age 31 season, and we'll see what age 35, 36, 37, 38. We'll see what the back half of that contract looks like. For now, it's a win. But I'm not mad at not having an 8-year deal on the books for a guy that started that contract at 31 years old. You got Blake Snell, 5 years, $182 million. Well, for one, he always wanted to pitch on the West Coast. He was probably never going east anyway. He's 32. He's only made 9 starts this season due to injuries. So take that for what it's worth. You have Sean Manaea. We all know the story there. 3 years, $75 million, has not worked out for the Mets so far. You have Nathan Eovaldi, who signed a similar contract. 3 years, $75 million to return to the Rangers. He wanted to go back there. He was never going to come to the Mets because he wanted to stay where he's been comfortable, where he won a World Series a couple of years ago. He was unbelievable, though. 1.73 ERA. But he's going into his age 36 season next year, and even if the Mets signed him, he wouldn't be any good to them anymore because he is out for the rest of the season with a rotator cuff injury. So we'll see how that holds up next season as he gets into the real back half of his 30s, but a contract the Mets probably couldn't have signed anyway, and in the end, he got hurt. Yeah, Usei Kikuchi, he signed a $63 million deal over 3 years, $21 million per with the Angels. Had a 3.11 ERA before the All-Star break. Since then, a 6.66 ERA in 10 starts, 4.18 ERA on the season. He has been worse than Clay Holmes this year. Clay Holmes making $8 million less. You have Jack Flaherty, 2 years, $35 million, 4.69 ERA this season. Everybody wanted Walker Buehler, myself included. 1 year, $21.05 million deal. Got the qualifying offer, just not from the team who was supposed to give it to him. The Red Sox signed him for the exact amount of the qualifying offer. He didn't make it a whole year with them. Pitched to a 5.45 ERA. He's now a minor leaguer in the Phillies farm system trying to pitch his way back onto a playoff roster. You have Holmes, who has pitched despite a bad start on Wednesday to a 3.75 ERA. And if anybody would have told me before the season that Clay Holmes would make 29 starts and pitch over 150 innings to a sub-4 ERA, he has basically matched his career ERA, which is 3.72, out of the rotation, I would have said it's a massive win for the Mets. It's a really good deal. And there's every chance that after going through this marathon for the first time, if Clay Holmes has a good offseason, he might be even better next year. So that ended up being a good contract. Frankie Montas, horrible contract. 2 years, $34 million, and all you got was whatever it was, 7 or 8 appearances of horrible pitching, and now Tommy John, he's done with the Mets. Bad deal, clearly. Here are the ones that the Mets got wrong. Matthew Boyd, 2 years, $29 million with the Cubs, pitched to a 2.92 ERA and 166 and a third innings pitch. That was a guy that I also talked about in the offseason. He looked really great down the stretch with the Guardians last year, but he was coming off of even less of a track record than Montas as far as he pitched less innings off of injury, and you weren't sure exactly how it was going to hold up. He's held up great. That was one the Mets missed on. Nick Pivetta, another one they missed on. 4 years, $55 million. I wouldn't even look at the dollar amount there, though, because Pivetta had the qualifying offer attached, so he held out in the market for so long that the Padres got a sweetheart deal at the 11th hour. He's been great, though. 2.73 ERA and 171 and a third innings pitched. At the same time, would I have wanted the Mets to sign Pivetta and give up the draft pick attached when it came to the qualifying offer for a guy in Pivetta that had been very inconsistent prior to this season? No, not necessarily. So, yes, in retrospect, hindsight's 2020. Maybe the Mets made a mistake there, but in actuality, was that really the deal that everyone was clamoring for? No, it's not. The deal that everyone was clamoring for was going back to the Burns, Snell, Fried triumvirate. And again, only Fried worked out, and it's year one of an 8-year deal. Then you got Jose Quintana, 3.88 ERA and 23 starts. Obviously, you wish you could have that one back. I'm not even going to talk about the $4 million because it's just like Pivetta. That's a reflection of the fact that he couldn't get what he was asking for and then had to settle. Clearly, that was one that, the Mets would have been better off had they signed him, but they didn't. Luis Severino, 3 years, $67 million, has pitched to a 4.67 ERA this year. Tough to really gauge it because it's an ERA over 6 at home in the ballpark he hates in Sacramento compared to an ERA in the low 3s on the road. But the bottom line is 12 multi-year deals given out. The true hits of those 12 multi-year deals, Max Fried, Clay Holmes, Matthew Boyd, Nick Pivetta. Those are the 4 that really worked. Evaldi did as well, but I was looking at deals that are for guys that have performed and have stayed healthy all year. So that's why I took Evaldi off that. And again, with Fried, there's still the length of that contract. So the hit rate was 33% on free agent deals. So David Stearns' philosophy of not investing long-term in starting pitchers has really been proven correct based on what the market has produced from the free agent market last year and the results this season. It has shown that, yes, signing free agent starting pitchers is a real gamble. How you want to build a rotation is through the farm system. And it's hard to do that in 18 months. And that's how much time Stearns had running this team from when he took over to opening day this year. And the farm system has produced with guys that have largely been developed under the Stearns regime, McLean, Tong, and Sproat, who very well could save your season when it's all said and done. Not to mention you have Jonathan Santucci, Jack Weninger, and Zach Thornton, 3 more pitching prospects who have all enjoyed extended success in AA this year, giving you another wave that's coming, and that is just the tip of the iceberg. Did David Stearns build a championship team this year? No, he did not. Did he have a perfect season? Absolutely not. Is he still a great executive who has a steady hand on the wheel for the New York Mets? Yes. Did he build a rotation last year on, borrowing from Michael Barron's tweet, project reclamations and rolls of the dice that got the Mets to Game 6 in the NLCS? Yes, he did. Did he build a rotation this year that had the best ERA in baseball through the middle of June on the backs of Kodai Senga, David Peterson, Clay Holmes, a free agent signing, Griffin Canning, a free agent signing, and Tyler McGill, and then a bullpen with Edwin Diaz, AJ Minter, who was a good signing till he got hurt, Reed Garrett, Max Kranick, a guy they found out of nowhere, Huascar Braziban, a trade from last year. It was that team that had the Mets in the position that they're still in right now, where despite the fact that they've been bad for 3 months, they're still the favorite to make the playoffs in this wildcard race. If you're pointing the finger at David Stearns, I'm sorry. I think you're misplaced, okay? The team is letting you down as a fan right now. I get it. It's frustrating to watch, but don't think that the Mets need to make some sweeping changes and fire the best executive that this franchise has probably had in, I guess, I would say, if you want to give Sandy Alderson credit for the 2015 Mets since then, if not, who knows how long, since Frank Cashin. So let's relax on the Stearns hate and let's just focus on seeing where this team's at for the Mets and where they can still go, because the reality is they're not out of this race just yet. So what I want to talk about next is piggybacking. Are we going to see it soon with Manaea and Holmes? We'll get into it in just a minute. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether out on the course or just need a little extra push to power through your day, 5-Hour Energy Transfusion delivers that clubhouse flavor you love without ever having to leave the green. Golf is all about good times and good people and good flavors. The grape, ginger, lime flavor of 5-Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without leaving the course or chasing down that beverage card. Now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the USA. Tee up that trip. Visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. That's the number 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. If your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy. It's the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays, and you can even do what my brother-in-law has been doing lately. He's been betting against the Mets. We can say, you know what? One way or the other, I'm going to be happy. Either the Mets are going to win or I'm going to win my bet. Maybe you want to do that as well. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. If you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Help us get closer to our next goal of 15,000 subscribers. I would love to get there by the end of the season. Really do appreciate all of you who continue to subscribe. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Clay Holmes and potentially piggybacking him with Sean Manaea moving forward. We've been discussing this on the show for a while now, and I think this start by Holmes is just another example of why the Mets need to employ this strategy moving forward. You look at what Clay Holmes did in this outing. First inning, he gets himself into a bases-loaded jam with nobody out. Harrison Bader gets a leadoff single. he really just kind of got jammed and was able to muscle it into left field. Exit velocity of 77 miles per hour. The ball was not hit hard, but Bader continues to kill the Mets. Then he pitches carefully around Schwarber. Holmes does, walks him, and then he hits Bryce Harper with a first pitch back foot sweeper. So right there, bases loaded, nobody out. JT Realmuto, he gets ahead of, and he throws a sweeper low and away. Not a bad pitch. Honestly, executed pretty well. Realmuto just better hitting. Goes down and gets it. Able to flare one into center field. Exit velocity of 73.7 miles per hour. So not hit very hard. Couple of soft hit balls, a walk, a hit batter. 4 base runners all reach against Holmes to start things out. There's already 1 run across. He then strikes out Brandon Marsh. Gets into a 2-2 count against Max Kepler, and then he hits another guy with a back foot sweeper. That brings in a second run. So now 5 of the first 6 batters have reached base, but he still does not give in. He strikes out Otto Kemp, gets a flyout, escapes the inning again, where 5 men reach base, giving up just 2 runs. Then second inning gives up a 1-out double to Harrison Bader because of course he does. Walks Kyle Schwarber because he was being very careful there. Gets Bryce Harper to fly out, strikes out JT Realmuto to strand 2. Third inning, works around a leadoff single. That's all he gave up. Fourth inning, issued another walk to Schwarber, but that was all he issued there. Retired the other 3 batters he faced. So through 4 innings, he had given up 2 runs on, I believe it was 4 hits. Then the 5th inning came, gave up 2 hits, gets pulled. Gregory Soto comes in, and the Mets bullpen was a disaster against the Phillies, who just gave their fans a show. But when it comes to Sean Manaea and Clay Holmes, and what we saw these last 2 starts, length, not a strength for either of these guys, but they each showed something that still indicates that there is a role for these guys moving forward. They can still help this team. For Manaea, maybe that change, right? Carlos Mendoza takes him down to the tunnel. I believe in you. You have to believe in you. He stops overthinking. He comes out, pitches, and just plays his game. Has 3 really good innings after 2 bad ones to begin his start. So for me, Sean Manaea should get another start. The Mets already said that he will. Try to see if he can build off of this one. But for Clay Holmes, I would have him lined up to piggyback off of Manaea. So if Manaea is getting knocked around, maybe you go to the bullpen, get through whatever jam it is, and then you bring in Clay Holmes to give you bulk relief. If things go great, Manaea gives you 5 and Clay Holmes finishes it, or Manaea gives you 6 and Clay Holmes finishes it. But I would start to piggyback these guys because we saw it once right before the All-Star break where Clay Holmes had a solid start and Manaea followed it up. I think the Mets lost that game in extras, if I'm not mistaken. Regardless, it worked then. It can work now. And it allows you to take some of the pressure off the bullpen because if it all works, you might not need the bullpen for that day. It could be a day off for the pen because those 2 guys can carry the distance. And with the off days the Mets have left here, this can allow you to take advantage of your strength right now, which is Jonah Tong, Brandon Sproat, and Nolan McLean. I don't think a 6-man rotation with 3 veterans that are struggling is the way to go. And I do think that David Peterson deserves the benefit of the doubt to be able to stay in this rotation wire to wire. He was your all-star this year. He's the one guy who has consistently given you length all season long. So I don't think you're going to pull Peterson from the rotation, and this is a way to maybe get the most out of Manaea and Holmes, where even Sean Manaea goes into a start and he says, yeah, I'm going to do the best I can to just keep this team off the board this given inning that I'm pitching. And if he gets through 6, amazing. But if Sean Manaea gets through 5 innings and he has held the other team to 2 runs, and then Clay Holmes can come in and maybe coming out of the bullpen for 4 innings can hold the team to just a run, you can win a baseball game that way. Here's how I think it lines up from here. Over the weekend, the Mets have listed their starters: Jonah Tong, Brandon Sproat, Nolan McLean. Going to be a fun weekend against the Rangers. I would have liked to see McLean pitch in front of Brandon Sproat so that you could set him up to maybe make one additional start this year, but maybe the Mets don't want to put the pedal to the metal on McLean. Maybe they're trying to sort of watch the innings a little bit so that he can be a little bit stronger come playoff time. And I guess you always could, have him go on 4 days rest at other points down the stretch. I don't even think it would be 4 days rest on Saturday, though, right? Because he pitched on Monday, so it'd be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So it would be 4 days rest. So they want to keep him on 5 days. Makes sense. That's what they're going to do this weekend. Your next series, all right? After this, you're going to have Manaea and Holmes in a piggyback is the way I line it up. David Peterson starting the second game of that series against the Padres. I believe that'd be on 5 days rest, and then Jonah Tong on 5 days rest to finish out that series. You then have a series against the Nationals. You can go with Brandon Sproat for that first game, or McLean. Again, you can play around that order if you wanted to try to get McLean into that series against the Cubs. If not, though, it's going to be Sproat, McLean, and then again, Manaea, Holmes on a piggyback. They'd be pitching on 4 days rest, but it's a tandem, so you can do that. You come back, you have a day off, you play 3 in Chicago against the Cubs. It would be David Peterson, Jonah Tong, and then either Sproat or McLean. You then have the other one of those two pitching in the final series against the Marlins with the Manaea, Holmes piggyback, and if the final game is necessary, it would be David Peterson's ball. That's how you do it. 16 games left this year. 9 that would be started by Jonah Tong, Brandon Sproat, Nolan McLean, 3 starts apiece. 4 started by David Peterson, 3 by a tandem of Manaea and Holmes. I think that's how the Mets should do it. Obviously, Kodai Senga is still a guy that could factor into this rotation, but to me, that is the best way to get the most out of Manaea and Holmes. I really hope they go to it because I think that could be a way that they can potentially win those 3 games that those guys start. But even more so, you're not having those 2 guys pitch 6 of your final 16 games. They combine to pitch 3 of your final 16 games. And hopefully in doing so, you're going to give the bullpen some extra rest in those games. That allows you to be more aggressive with that bullpen when you have the kids on the mound or David Peterson on the mound. I think that's how they should do it, but we'll see where they go from here. In the final segment today, I want to talk a little bit about the wild card race, give you your update there, and we'll also update you on the minor league playoffs that are going on. So we'll get to all that to close out the show in just a minute. Today's episode is brought to you by Nutrafol. You've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, sure, like that actually works. There are so many products out there, and it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's why you should give Nutrafol a closer look, because Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand trusted by over 1.5 million people. And it's not just hype. This is a supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. Whether you're at work, out with friends, or even just getting ready in the morning, Nutrafol is going to give you more confidence in your daily routine. And you can feel good about it knowing that Nutrafol is NSF certified and backed by peer-reviewed studies. See thicker, stronger hair with less shedding in just about 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code Locked On MLB. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code Locked On MLB. If you're an everydayer that always tunes into the show, make sure you become a Locked On Mets insider. This is our texting service where you get updates from me anytime news breaks from the Mets. You can ask me questions anytime, take part in our Locked On Mets signed photo giveaways, and get a line graphic sent to your phone each day so you know who's in the starting lineup without ever having to go on social media. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find a link in the episode description or go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. Let's talk about the wild card race. So the Mets obviously lost, but the Giants lost as well to the Diamondbacks. They are still 2 games back. The Reds beat the Padres, so they moved to 2 games back. The Mets have the tiebreaker over the Giants. The Reds have the tiebreaker over the Mets. So at this stage, the Reds are closer to the Mets in a sense than the Giants are, but the bottom line is you don't want this to come down to tiebreakers. If it's a 3-way tie right now, I believe the Mets have it because then it goes to intra-division record. So whoever has the best record against their division wins, and the Mets are 1 game over 500 against the NL East, which is almost mind-boggling that they are, but I guess they've done their work on the Phillies prior to this series, the Nationals, and the Marlins, because we know they didn't do their work against the Braves, but even if they lose against the Phillies again, they'll be 500, and then they still have some games against the Nationals and the Marlins to hopefully improve on that. The Reds are 5 games under 500 against the Central. The Giants are 3 games under 500 against the West. When it comes to who these teams played on this stretch, the Reds are going to go to Sacramento this weekend. They're off on Thursday. They then play the Cardinals in St. Louis. They come home. They host the Cubs for 4. They host the Pirates for 3. and then they go to Milwaukee to close their season. So they still have plenty of in-division games left, all but that series against the A's coming up will be against their division. So they'll have a lot more ground to either make up or lose when it comes to that tiebreaker. The Giants, they're going to play against the Dodgers this weekend at home. They then go to Arizona for 3, and then they go to LA to play the Dodgers again for 4 next week. They then come home, they host the Cardinals, and then the Rockies to close out their season. So this next 10 days for the Giants is going to be huge to see if they can hold up against a team that they just beat in the Diamondbacks, but now on the road, they'll have to face them to start next week. And then 7 games against the Dodgers, which very well, if the Dodgers beat up on them, could knock them pretty far out of the playoff race, assuming the Mets hold up their end of the bargain, which is a big assumption. But the bottom line at this stage is try to salvage a game in this series. Hopefully David Peterson pitches a good game. Maybe the Mets can win one. But even if you lose, they're going to be sitting on a 1.5 game lead, and then you're going into a 9-game homestand where the Mets very well could put themselves in great position going into the final week of the season. So that's really what they got to focus on. They got to focus on these next 10 games. Maybe you salvage one in Philly, but go out there and take all 3 series at home, and you're going to be in a good spot. You really are, and then it's just don't fall flat in your face on that final road trip. The Mets, even with all these struggles, are still in the driver's seat. So we'll just see how it goes. Now, I wanted to continue to update you on the minor league playoffs. I did make a mistake yesterday because I said that each of the Mets affiliates is in the playoffs. The Syracuse Mets are not. They did not make it in the first half. They didn't have a good first half. They were well in position a couple of weeks ago, but considering the fact that their entire rotation almost got moved up to the big leagues, all of a sudden the Syracuse Mets are struggling. They're now 3 games back, so they very well could miss the playoffs, but the Syracuse Mets are not really a reflection of the farm system. It is a reflection of your taxi squad, essentially. Right now, sure, they got a lot of top prospects that came up in the 11th hour with Jet Williams and Carson Bench and Ryan Clifford, and now Kevin Parada is up there as well. So there are guys up there that could make a push in these final couple of weeks, but really when it comes to development and the reflection of where your farm system's at, it is pretty cool that all the other 3 affiliates are already either in the playoffs or will be. For the low A St. Lucie Mets, they are in a playoff series right now. They just won their first game tonight on Wednesday night. They won 4-2. Low A baseball, 1 earned run all game. Okay, it was a 4-2 game, so 6 runs came across. Only 1 of them was earned. There were 5 errors made by both teams combined. Antonio Jimenez, the Mets' 3rd-round pick this year, shortstop out of, I believe, USF. He got the Mets on the board in the first inning. I believe it was Trey Snyder who reached second base on an error. It was a throwing error, so he reached first and advanced to second on the error, and then a single scored him by Jimenez. Mitch Voigt drove in a run in the following inning on a sacrifice fly. 4th inning, Simone Juan leadoff single. Jeremy Rodriguez doubled, so he had 2 runners in scoring position. A couple guys struck out, came back to Antonio Jimenez, and he would reach on an error that scored 2. On the pitching side, Jose Chirinos, a 20-year-old righty who has a 3.10 ERA and 71 2/3 innings pitched this year, went 5 scoreless. Elwis Maharis was a 19-year-old who has a pretty good ERA, an ERA in the 2s out of the bullpen. He allowed 2 unearned runs in 2 innings pitched, and then it was Trey McLaughlin who finished off the game, 10th-round pick this year, has only pitched a couple games in St. Lucie. This was his 3rd appearance there, allowed just 1 hit across 2 scoreless innings of relief, struck out 4. So they've won their first game. If they can win the next one here, they would move on to the championship series. They're in the divisional round. Now, Brooklyn, the high A Cyclones, are playing game 2 tonight on Thursday. They had a day off on Wednesday because that series was 1 game on the road. Then they were the team that got home field advantage. They're playing game 2 and game 3 in Brooklyn. If they win, they advance because they already won game 1, as we talked about on yesterday's show. Binghamton starts their playoff series next week. Yesterday on Tuesday, they clinched the second half title. The way that minor leagues works, you have a first half of the season and a second half, and they do the standings for each half because there's so many promotions and everything. These teams change in the way that they then decide the playoff field. The winner of the first half of the division plays the winner of the second half. And then you go from there. the Binghamton Rumble Ponies have won each half of the season. They've led their division wire to wire. They have dominated that division. I can't remember if the other team that they're going to face is whoever has the second best record in the second half or the second best record overall in the season. But regardless, they will play their playoff series starting next week. And then again, Syracuse, you still have a couple weeks left in their season. They're 3 games back. They technically could, make a push here with all those top prospects, and it'd be exciting if they did. But there's every chance there that the Mets minor league affiliates could win 3 titles this year. And I think that's a testament to a farm system that some outlets have now graded as the best farm system in all of baseball. So we go full circle here when it comes to David Stearns and how he's doing running the Mets. I understand it's frustrating. If they fall out of the playoffs, it's a huge disappointment. And I get the fan perspective that heads should roll. But with that said, do I think that they should scapegoat David Stearns for this season? No chance. And Steve Cohen loves David Stearns. This is the executive he was waiting for. If you're sick of David Stearns, I apologize, but you are going to have to see him for the rest of this decade at least. And Carlos Mendoza, I don't think is on the hot seat either. So at this stage, let's watch out the string. Let's see what happens. Hopefully, with the young pitchers in this rotation who are going to cover 9 of the final 16 games, and if David Peterson can come on strong, that'd be 13 of the final 16 games, assuming they move away from this 6-man rotation and piggyback Manaea and Holmes. There's still every chance this team can make the playoffs. And if things go well over this last couple weeks and they get hot, you never know what can happen in October. So let's just continue to try to hold the faith, root for this team to figure it out. And the good news is they'll get out of Philadelphia after the game today. As always, thank you for listening. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure if you want to be part of our Locked On Mets Insiders, be part of our texting service, you can find the link in the episode description. Go to subtext.com/Locked On Mets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen and first watch every day. Now for your second watch, check out Locked On MLB Game Night, the show that'll take you around all the action in Major League Baseball with insight from our local experts and league-wide experts that'll take you through all the games. You can find Locked On MLB Game Night on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel as well as the Locked On MLB podcast feed.